It's adding, it's adding, it's adding. When this actually happens, it's going to be like a joyous occasion here. Oh,
And there he is.
Yay! Yay! We made this work.
That was a lot more difficult than I thought it would be.
Well, if you see the add button there, like it's sort of hidden on the phone, and so I'm tapping it, but it's not working. Tony's getting mad at me.
Oh no, I love you, man, but I've never heard anybody say that you're a technical genius.
No,
So,
and you will
so
never
I'm
hear
good.
people say that. So they just clarified this right
No,
now.
no,
So.
nobody says it about me either, so I don't. That's fine. I'm good with that. I did wear this for you just today. I ironed this on Monday, and I've been saving it up ever since, just for you.
You can stop rubbing your chest right now. It's a little awkward.
No, it feels pretty good
Oh,
actually.
good, good.
uh, no, thankfully we finally got you on here. I know we've been trying for a little while here.
I know, and
Um,
you've been very gracious. So
Oh no, I love having you on. I appreciate you making the time. I know you're pretty busy. We're going to have a pretty quick chat this afternoon because I know you've got some other stuff scheduled for the rest of the day too, just as I do too. So we'll kind of get right into it. I mean, like I was kind of talking already, I first sort of became aware of you through your involvement with Inman.
hmm
So when you gave your first speech on stage there, all about MOYO and talking
Yep.
about your family and all that sort of stuff. So I mean, for people who aren't familiar with you, who haven't met you yet,
Yeah.
basically online or in person, what's your background? What's your story? Who is Billy Ekofo?
So Billy is. I'm a simple guy from the Congo originally. I was born in the U.S., and so I got my citizenship, my American citizenship that way, but really lived abroad, so France and Congo, for essentially all my life. That sort of came to an end in 1998 when I had to be evacuated from the Congo due to the war. And so I came back to the U.S. because that was my home country. And so I landed in Richmond, Virginia. For those of you who know where that is, it's the state capital of the state of Virginia. And I had plans to go live with some Congolese friends that we knew. They had no idea I was coming, and so I literally
Yeah,
just
and you weren't
landed.
you weren't you didn't come with your family either. It was
No,
just
no, no,
basically
no.
you.
Yeah, it was just me. And so I called them from the airport and just say, hey, I'm here. This is what's going on back home. Dad basically said that I should come and live with you guys. And that's how my journey started. And it went from that to a series of success and failure. Essentially, I landed in real estate. Go figure.
Yeah,
And
like a
so,
lot of people. Yeah.
yeah, and like you had an idea about how your life was going to be, and then it turns out
Yeah.
differently. And then, real estate was more of a last recourse for me. And so I came into it not really excited to be in the industry, partially because my perception of the real estate professional was different. Like I just thought it was a bunch of people selling homes and earning a living from commission. Um, and so, yeah, and that's, but, I came to find a very different side of the industry. And so, from that,
Mhm.
my love for real estate sort of grew from there. And, you know, I've been in the business since 2014 officially. And so here we are.
Yeah, and you spent most of your career at Century 21 at Redwood there. At least
Yep.
you got most of your success there. And I know you've recently talked, like I finally got to meet you in person at Inman
Yeah.
Connect when you were actually working with them briefly.
Yeah.
So I was kind of reading through some of that as well. So you were with them for about 5 or 6 months or so, and you helped put together Inman Connect New York with
hmm
obviously with a team of people.
Yeah.
And then family issues came up again with your parents in the Congo and some
Yeah.
other
So
things happening.
this was a wild one. And so, Inman Connect was ending, and I get this
Yep.
call from the U.S., basically the immigration, saying, "Hey, your parents' lives are in danger." And a little bit of background to it. So my dad gave essentially a sermon commemorating the late president, the late Congolese president's anniversary, death of anniversary. And in that
Mhm.
sermon, he basically said, paraphrasing here, we should be worrying about doing good for the people, not doing good for ourselves. In other words, stop taking funds from
Yeah.
the country to enrich yourself, but really care for the people that need it. that was well received by the majority of the population, except from the people that actually needed to hear the message. And so through a series of contacts and, anyways, it became very evident that their safety was in jeopardy. And so we worked with a couple other people to get them out of the country. And so I'm happy to say they're safe. For security reasons, I don't want to mention where they are specifically. But
sure,
they're alive and well. And so that sort of prompted, when something like this happens to you, you have to rethink, it makes you rethink everything, right? And so when I got that call at Inman, essentially I looked at my phone and I was like, who do I need to reach out to in regard to this? It just so happens that the people, everyone that I wanted to speak with happened to be in real estate, right? It redefined, again, what the notion of the agent, the real estate professional has to be. For me, it's now a matter of, am I number 7 on someone top 10 list when their work goes under? Do they see me as someone they could call upon, when, life gets tough? And I'm not talking just emotionally, like I'm talking about, as a real estate professional, do I have the resources that someone can call on me and say, my world just went upside down. Can you come and help me? I trust in your service, in your knowledge as a real estate professional and as a person, as someone with resources. And so that's what happened to me. And so I reached out to friends. There were people in that very room who were on my phone, right? So that's, and one of them just happened to be Eddie Baramon, the CEO and the president of Century 21 Redwood Realty. And so he was there when I actually got the call, and I've texted with him. And so, it made more sense to me to come back home. I guess, I needed to be around the people that actually, when my life changed dramatically, I wanted to be surrounded by people that actually understood that. And then it's not to say that my next venture couldn't have been somewhere else. It could have. But, to me, it was a matter of being at home surrounded by the people that absolutely knew me. So,
of course. And I think that plays into, even before I knew you, I like reading a lot of what you've been posting online and talking about humanizing the sales process. Right? So treating people not just as leads, but building relationships. And like you said, being that person. I mean, most of us don't deal with clients who are going through what you went through and your parents went through, is that sort of thing, to that extreme. But we do deal with people every day who are going through significant life changes, whether it's they're downsizing because their children are going to college or university, they're retiring, or more serious things like they've lost jobs, death in the family, that kind of thing. And you want to kind of be that person, like you mentioned, who's going to be there for them to assist them, not necessarily just buying and selling their home, but whether it's contacting legal services or support services, or if it's, up here, we just had a windstorm recently that caused a lot of damage. And then, so contacting contractors that can help out and all that sort of thing. So how did you, I guess, start to develop that idea? Because I mean, the big focus in real estate is like, most real estate agents, when you talk to them, all they want is leads. Talk about leads. I just want leads. I just
money.
Want some lead generation, leads, and this and that. So how did you make that, or when did you make that sort of mental shift to start talking to your agents and your people about humanizing the process? Like, what does that mean to you, and how does that manifest itself on a daily for you, for when you're talking to your agents at Century 21?
That is a great question. I would say it started.
I'm known for asking great questions. Just
No pressure. It started out in business school, right? So I went to get my MBA, and and the thought process behind me going to business school was that I wanted to work in media, essentially in film, and I wanted to be in film management, right? Still having some creative involvement, but really, caring for the production, being a producer type person. And in business school, someone actually challenged me. And, she said that, don't you want your business to matter? Don't you want your business to be about something more than just profit or the bottom line? And it caused me to think. And, if you think about it, that was also where a lot of companies found themselves after the crash in 2008, right? Like prior to that, right? Like people got into the business and they were solely bottom line focused. Then, as a company, we experienced the crash pretty hard. And so it led people, essentially the generation that came after that, the workforce that came after that, was primarily preoccupied by working for companies with more of a social agenda. What I mean is they wanted a company that wanted, giving back to the community is not really the right term. They wanted some company whose success was also mirrored by how well the community where they were established was performing. So, you think about, if I'm a company X in Northern Virginia, let's say in Ashburn, Virginia, which is where I live, is the community doing better? And is a mirror to how I'm doing as a community, as a company. So if my bottom line goes up and then the community is in dire shape, that makes people wonder. It's like, how come you're only getting rich, but the people where your surrounding is just completely messed up, right? And so I think that's where the idea of, humanizing business came about. So it was birthed out of the idea that business should be about something more than just strictly bottom line, right? And so then you come from that level, and then you say to yourself, okay, how does that play into everything I do as a professional? How does that play into everything I do as a real estate agent? And so you start thinking about it. Well, if I approach someone as a lead, right, strictly for the purpose of converting and closing them,
right?
Am I truly doing right? Am I truly doing that person, that client, justice, right? Because I don't like feeling that way personally. Like when someone only comes to connect with me for the sole purpose of getting something out of me in order to, essentially, I feel like I'm being used. Well, I feel like the people we're trying to service, they will feel the same way too if they find out that was our sole purpose. Now, that being said, our work is, the way we get paid as agents is through commission. So, my value proposition has to be one where someone will naturally feel that this is a good way for me to earn my living, right? Without any, you know what I'm saying? Like, they don't need to feel weird about it. It's like, look, this is how I earn my money. Yeah. But you are not the focus. Like, you are my client, and I want to make sure you understand that everything I do, it's strictly for your benefit.
Right.
But we have to change the way we talk about them too, right? And
absolutely.
So that's the whole idea. Refer to people. How many leads you dealing with? That's great, but like when you start seeing them as people, like it changes the way you relate to them, right? So, case in point, I asked someone a couple of weeks ago, at what point does someone becomes a client to you? And this agent was like, well, I have to take them out, show them a couple properties, whatever. And then we sign an exclusive, and then they become a client. And I challenged them, and I said, what do you think will happen if the moment they called you, you spoke to them as your client? Well, I don't know. And I basically, what I said is, that's a different value proposition altogether. Because you're claiming them as yours. Like, you are my person.
Right.
I am taking care of you. And then everything from now on, like, they will know. And so to me, that's, when we're talking about building a relationship has to be owned from the start. Like, I don't get into a relationship, for the sake of abandoning it at some point. Like, that's not, might as well not get into a relationship. Like, you and I are friends because we committed to a friendship, right? So, and I don't want to mess that up. Like, that should be the goal, like, I'm married to my wife because I'm committed to her, right? Like, that's, and is it always perfect? No, right? And stuff happens, but you work through it. Like, that's, how come we don't apply that to the business as well? I guess that's where it came
from. And I think you're right. I think it kind of goes into everything, like you mentioned, like your wife, and like just relationships in general. I think if you are approaching a person, so like myself, I'm not married at the moment, so I might go out and try to meet with other women and date and all that kind of stuff. But if you are approaching these people, or even friends, or making friends and all this sort of thing, with the mindset of a lead, where it's just, what do I get out of you? You're really not going to establish a friendship, or you're not going to find someone who you can have a relationship with.
Yeah.
You might have, somebody, a drinking buddy, or a one night stand or something like that really doesn't mean anything. But if you actually want to establish a relationship with someone, you have to be committed from the beginning.
Yeah.
With a mindset of, this is what I'm trying to do.
Absolutely.
And I've always thought as well, I think, and I think we're sort of on the same wavelength here, is like, I think if you do that right from the beginning, the money follows.
Always does. Always does.
If you're just, I'm more focused on, how do I make this process easier for my clients?
Yeah.
How do I do that sort of thing, rather than how many leads have I talked to today and all this sort of stuff. And over time, I've noticed that every year my business, I get busier. I complete more transactions. I get more, and not only that, I get more referrals from past clients because I've built that relationship.
That's it. Them. So, there's a reason why the highest ROI in real estate is into the SOI quadrant, right? Like, if you think about it, those are the people that know you. Those are the people that trust you. Those are the people that don't mind talking about you when they talk to other people that they may or may not even know, and just singing your praises. Like, that's where, every agent that I know, this is where they're trying to be. And so, you're using other methods to get to that. And so why not approach the business with that mindset from the beginning, right? Like, if my goal is to essentially establish a business that's conditioned but really good relationship, let's make that step one. Like, I need to lay the groundwork for that to be the case, and it has to be present in the way you approach the business. It has to be present in the way, your marketing, your value proposition as an agent, it has to stem from that, because that's not something that you grow into later on, right? Like, to me, like, you already lost that value proposition if you think to yourself that, I'm just going to do leads, whatever, and then at some point I'm going to have this sudden shift in my mindset where people actually people to me, and I'm like, you need to start nurturing everything from that perspective. So
and I think I agree. I think if you're focused mainly on, like, we do have to generate leads, we do have to create business, but how you handle that once you actually make contact, that's what we're talking about. So the lead generation part of it, the online prospecting and whatever, or phone calls or whatever, that's a separate kind of thing. But I find that, like I said, I'm about 6.5 years in the business, and I find that last year was the best year that I had, and I had about 65% of my business was referral in 6 years, and 80% of that, or 70% of that, was realtor referrals, because I've actually built relationships with other people, and they trust me. So I think just building those relations and how you handle people, like, I'm involved with, I do the online prospecting, Facebook ads, and get into digital marketing and all that sort of thing. But that, again, that's a separate thing. But I think if you treat people like leads, just like numbers, trying to crunch them through the system and make money on them, then you're always going to have to spend a lot of time doing that, because you're always going to need a new source of customers, because the old ones don't come back.
No, and that's it. And it becomes
very expensive.
Not only expensive,
because now you're always advertising, you're always dumping money into lead generation, where, like you said, if you built that relationship with people in the past, they're doing the lead generation for you. They're finding clients for you, you know.
And it's a beautiful thing when it happens. So, case in point, part of me being as an employee at Redwood, like, even in the past, like, I had to give up selling. I can't tell you how many times I get a call when saying, "Hey, Billy, I know you don't sell, but since you're in real estate, we still trust you. Could you help?" Right? Like, people know that you're in the industry. People know that you've helped them in the past, and they will always default back to you when it comes to, help. So.
And I think it's being genuine too. Like, I obviously we know each other. We've got to meet, and we have our own little league of real estate geeks, and we kind of do our fun stuff there. But I followed you online through Facebook and other things, so I just kind of get to know who you are. And if you're being very authentic, very genuine about what you're talking about, that makes that connection, that deepens that relationship with people, I think. And the social media, I think, is one of the greatest tools that we have for that. I mean, you can be very shallow about it, and you can be very hey, look at me, I'm the best real estate agent in the world, I sold 1 million homes last year. Or you can just talk about things that are important to you the way that you do, and people kind of make that deeper connection. It's like, okay, this is a good person. This is somebody who I can trust and who I can rely on for good information, for good advice and that sort of thing, right? So even like you said, you don't actually sell anymore, but they're still going to use you as that resource for real estate. It's like, if I need anything to do with real estate, I'm going to talk to Billy.
And that's what I wanted as an agent. Like, I wanted people, the moment they thought of real estate, they thought about me. Like that was my goal. And so, people call me, like, do you know a real estate attorney? Yes. Do you know a home inspector? Yes. Do you know whatever? Like, that's the level of businesses that transact through me as an agent is mind-boggling. And if you think about it, that's your value as the real estate agent, is that you are a conduit for a lot more services. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And so I feel like when you're limiting yourself to just being a closer of leads, like, you haven't really tapped into the fullness of who you are as an agent. And, the good thing is that you can tap into it and then watch what happens. Like, it is amazing what happens when, that shift takes place, not only in you, but also in the people that you're trying to help. Like, for them to realize that you are actually a resource, it's amazing. Right. So,
and you're starting to see that shift in the industry as well. I mean, I'm up here in Canada, so things work a little bit differently here. I think you see a lot more of like these new companies and startups and what they call disruptors and that happening in the United States, mainly because density and volume of business and that sort of thing. But I've seen it down there. Like I've been down to Inman, and I kind of follow the market there as well. But are you seeing, like, I've noticed that a lot more like concierge type companies. So they have this mentality of, what, we're going to be a full service company for our clients. We're going to have contacts with home inspectors and stagers and all this kind of thing. But they're also going a little bit beyond that even. They're doing, like, some of them I see do like dog sitting services and just, all these kind of little things that these little value adds that they're putting into it to try and just really, really deepen that relationship with their clients, kind of thing.
I think
what kind of...
I think companies and essentially agents have now latched into the idea that really the success is into the relationship. There's nothing new under the sun. We knew this from the longest time ever, right? Now more than ever, it's it's evident that it's actually the case. Like, if you talk to older agents that have been in the business for a long time, they will tell you the same thing. And I think what's interesting to me, in sort of the innovators that you sort of mentioned, the quickest you can get a buyer and a seller together, the quickest that transaction takes place, right? So it's reducing that amount of time between, people to transact. That's where the innovation really takes place, and reducing the cost of the transaction too. And so, to me, that's where the dog sitting comes into place, because they're like, hey, I want to make sure you see value into what I do. Like, I'm going to go beyond just the transactional stuff. Like, I'm going to humanize it to a point where your dog is of value to me, and I'm going to make sure it's pampered in the way that it deserves.
And I think if you see a lot of agents who are resistant to, like, a lot of the new technology that's happening, there's a lot of stuff around like iBuyers and just transactional apps and software and all this kind of stuff. I think if you are the type of agent that's offering the service that we're talking about, where you're building relationships with clients and that kind of thing, that can't be replaced with an app.
No, and it would never.
But if you are the transactional type of agent, where basically you're a key to open the door, and you're somebody that just fills out paperwork, and then that's the extent of what you do, then you can be replaced by an app. You can be replaced by an online system, because you're really not adding anything of value to the transaction other than pushing paper and giving people a tour of a couple of homes or something along those lines.
I have to give credit to Century 21's new CEO, Nick Bailey, because he was one of our keynote presenter a couple weeks ago at a company event that we
Yeah,
had.
I saw that. Yeah.
And he basically said that, the power that we have as agents is that we now more than ever, we need to own the home shopping experience. If you think about it, like, the lead gen space, the online search is like, companies are coming, like other people have owned that sector now. But
For
taking
sure.
a client, sitting down with them, showing them properties, hearing how they feel about a property, like that's our space. No one comes to
Right.
that space. Like we own that space. And so this is where our energy has to be. And I'm excited about his leadership at Century 21 because for the longest time I felt that way, but I couldn't even voice what that was. And then he said it and I was like, that's why you CEO, man. Like
Yeah.
you spoke to my soul right there. But 100% right. Like this is innovation will come into the generating buyers and potential business for people, and that's where it's at. But like our role as an agent, like we are, no one can come into that experience space because that's where we need to own it and own it massively. And so, and that's to what we're talking about. That's where the relationship is key.
Right. Yeah, and there's relationships you build with your community as well. I mean, as an agent, like I'm very focused on my area. I know there are some agents, even here in Ontario, that travel great distances and
Yeah.
cover really large areas. I'm pretty focused. I'm focused on the city that I grew up in, and even more so in the area that I live in, and I'm very involved. So that and a lot of agents, I think this is you're seeing the specialization,
Yeah.
right? So you're the neighborhood expert, and the ones that are really focused on the community. And even when we talk about the online stuff, if you're on Facebook, rather than creating like an agent page on Facebook, it's more about creating a community page, a community space, and being the resource that, hey, what's happening in this
The
community?
mayor.
Well, you know what? I got to go ask Billy, or I got to go ask Tony, because he goes to all the community meetings. He goes to all the, he knows if they're building a school, he knows when it's going to be ready and what it's going to look like and all that sort of stuff. So having that relationship with the community, so you can voice that to the new people coming to the community. You're that ambassador essentially for the neighborhood, right?
I love Foursquare because of that. Like you checked in into an establishment several times and boom, you're the mayor. It's like everybody that came in and they were like, oh, Tony's the mayor of Jose's coffee shop, like and then that create. But that's essentially what we're talking about. It's like owning, knowing your market and being that type of resources for your market. There's the political people that always seeks votes, but there's the mayor, right? And so it's the mayor that people knock on your door and they want to know, hey, yes, this is happening in the neighborhood. What does Tony think about it? I'm gonna go ask him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of those political people come to those mayors
to
find out what's happening as well.
So if they don't have the endorsement of the mayor, then they might as well kiss their political career goodbye. So
cool. Well, that's really, I know you have to get going. We got about 10 minutes left or so. So, we kind of talked about the real estate stuff.
Yeah.
A friend of ours, Matthew Shadbolt's in there in the feed here. He says hi. And your wife, Karen says hi too, in case you wanted to know.
Well, yes. Hi, wife. Hi, wife number 2, which is Matthew.
Matthew. But Matthew's another one of the guys that I've met just sort of being in the industry, but the common thread for us is that we have a love of pop culture.
Yes, we do.
And for us specifically, it's things like science fiction and superheroes and all that sort of stuff. What is that? That's why I have the Black Panther shirt on today. That's all that. So how did that start for you? And in your formative years, what was your geeky life growing up kind of thing? What was the big things for you, the touchstones for you?
Yeah, so that's
growing up?
You just ask great questions, man. Like we should do this live more often.
Anytime.
So where did it started? So I grew up in the Congo mainly, and you can either acquire knowledge 2 ways. Like you had the funds, you had the money to either travel or go to private school and buy the latest video games or whatever, or you hung out with the people that had all this stuff and just sucked the knowledge out of it, right? That was me. We didn't have the resources. My parents didn't have the resources, but boy, I hung out where the happenings were. Like I sat in the living room watching other people play video games and just memorize what they did. And I read the instructions, and I knew the TV guide, and I knew each episode of a show. And so I was an encyclopedia for entertainment, right? Like if people wanted to know, hey, how do you beat this level in Street Fighter 2? I knew it. Had I played the game? No. Did I know exactly what to do? You betcha, right? And so that's what prompted it. And then I love film. Like ever since I was a kid, I love movies. They were powerful enough for me. Like one of my all-time favorite movie, and also it's so corny, but it's Mortal Kombat, right? It was based on the video games that we played, and the first one came out in 1995. Yes. Yeah. And I was blown away. I was like, this is amazing. Like, I want to be part of that creative process. Turns out that when I went to film school, I actually met the casting director of Mortal Kombat. He was one of our professors. And so it was amazing. It's like, how did you pick Robin Shou to play Liu Kang? And it was like, we scoured the world. We couldn't find anything until this guy from Hong Kong just happened to walk on our set. Boom. We knew it was him.
That was it. Yeah.
Changed life, right? So, but yeah, that's how basically it happened. And so, you know, having studied film and working in media kind of gives you a love for that type of thing. But, you know, I love science fiction, not to the extent that some people do, but enough to make me dangerous and to understand, right, what the story is.
Not to be obsessed, but to be a big fan.
Yeah, and so, you know, and part of it is because I appreciate storytelling. Right, like a good story has to be, you know, when it's told well, it's good. You know, that's why we, you know, I always tell the people, Peter Jackson read The Lord of the Rings probably, I don't know, a couple times, but like when he read it, he had a clear idea as to what Middle Earth should look like. Right, in his mind, he saw it, and he seized upon it to make it. You know, today I don't think of Elijah Wood as Elijah Wood. Like immediately I think of Frodo Baggins, right? And so I think David Yates directed the Harry Potter series. Same thing, right? Like they read the book, you know, everybody had like the vision that they brought into it. Like, that's what I love about it. It's like you can make people believe in something that's only visible on paper, you know, and then you put it into actuality. Like that's what a film does. You know, the first Transformer movie came out, and if my wife is still watching, she can attest to it. Her and I saw it 7 times. 7. Right? We bought you know, we bought the score of the movie because we loved it so much. Like that's, you know, and we would drive down the road with my kids, and then every truck were like, dude, Optimus is about to transform there. Like they got into it. Like that's what a film does. That, you know, and I love that about it. And, you know, I love when people talk about storytelling in real estate, because that's, you know, essentially that's what you're trying to create to your client. Like they think real estate, they have this idea, and you bring it to life to them, you know.
Yeah. And that's actually, I was going to mention that as well. Once you mentioned storytelling too, is like if you're looking at the most effective in real estate specifically, we'll talk, but this is general as well. The agents who are making the most effective use of things like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and video on YouTube are the ones that are telling stories.
That's it.
Whether it's the story of their community, the story of certain clients that they worked with, and how they went through the whole home buying process and all the ups and downs that they had, or just a general, like right now through our provincial association, we're pushing for, you know, legislation to make home ownership easier. And the way that we're sort of promoting it is going through telling people stories of like younger, what we call millennials, like a term that I hate the most, but younger millennials and that sort of thing, and the difficulties that they're having trying to get into this housing market here in Canada, especially in the really big cities like Toronto, where the prices have, you know, just blown up and that sort of thing. And that, but the point being that telling these stories seems to make that connection and that relationship with people that much stronger, I think. And that's the how I get, you know, sucked into movies and stories. And I think geeks, you know, and now that's become an acceptable term. I think the geeks of the world, like the Steve Jobs of the world and all these kind of people, are the ones, like you said, Peter Jacksons of the world, are the ones that have that passion but are able to do something with it. To make it real.
I mean, if you speaking of Steve Jobs, one of the early iPhone commercials that I watched that literally changed my world was one where, you saw the user, basically, you saw from the POV of the user. Like you didn't know if it was a man or a woman. Somebody held an iPhone in their hands, and then you saw how they were using it. They were walking around, doing stuff with it. And I thought about this for a while, and I was like, when everyone sees a device in their hand, they don't know who's using it, but they see the functionality of it. They want to do the same thing. Like that was sheer brilliance, and, and so I think that's the magic behind it. It's like, how do I bring people into the world I'm creating? How do I bring the community, friends, family, clients, into my world in a way that's authentic, in a way that's truthful, right? And then that's minus the hyperbole of everything, right? And so I'm in 100% agreement with you, because I think this is where that's what we're fighting now. I couldn't care less about Zillow. I couldn't care less about Compass or whatever. Like they're not part of my world. My world is, I'm the mayor, right? Yeah. Like I rule in this, and the inhabitants of my world, they know exactly what this world is about. And guess what? They choose to be in there. We chose to be geeks because that's part of our persona. And we band together, and we support each other, and we encourage each other, and we celebrate our successes as a group, as a tribe. That everybody's trying to do it, and no one can come and encroach upon it, because that's just not doable. Like in the end of the day, nobody owns that space. Right? Like nobody owns that space except for me. And so, trying to teach that to agents that's still fearing, and other people in the industry that's still fearing that someone else is coming into their turf. That's my challenge today. It's like, no. You got, this is not their story. This is your story. You're the chief writer, creative director of this journey. You control 100% of it. No one can tell it better than you. No one can do what you do as an agent. Own up to it, roll with it, and see the success that comes from it. So
and just like that iPhone commercial you mentioned, the commercial could have just been spewing out facts. Like, here's how fast it is, here's what it can do here, and nobody would care.
Nope.
But it's the addition of the story part of it that made it connect with people.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between like an app and a human being, right? And that's where our value lies, like you're saying.
That's it.
I know you got to get going. It's 3:15 already.
Yes, sir.
I just appreciate the opportunity to talk to you anytime I get, and just to know you. I mean, I think the fact that we were able to connect. Coming from where you come from and where I come from, and somehow through other people that we know, other geeks in the industry, we were able to make this connection, and that I think is just amazing. And just last little fact for you, since you mentioned Peter Jackson, he might be directing a DCEU movie, just so you know. So I don't know if he'll save them, but he might be doing something with it. I just heard this morning. So
as long as they bring him or Chris Nolan, like. That to me, like it will do something, and that's why I love Man of Steel. Like Chris Nolan had creative input in there. Like you can tell, of course Zack Snyder added his over the top special effects, but like it had a Chris Nolan feel to it. The second one was I can't even. Yeah,
no, not so much.
Yeah. Anyways,
but I'll go this one quickly. Infinity War, thumbs up, thumbs down. What'd you say? Kind of in between.
Yeah.
I've heard both. I've heard up and down from a lot of people.
Look, you and me know. Look, when I think of Thanos, there's no emotion. There's no humanness about him. Like, if you read the dude from the comic, like the guy on, come on, man, like shedding a tear.
In the comic, he killed people to satisfy death. So he's trying to make a girl happy. That's what he did in the comics. This Thanos in the movie is a whole other guy.
Yeah, so I'm trying to reconcile. Yeah, like I'm trying to reconcile that, but like he's still pretty evil. But like,
he is. He's crazy.
Yeah, and then there's I don't know. So that's why I'm a little ambivalent about if this was
Black Panther. I've heard both and stuff, but I'm on the upside on Black Panther. I love that one. It was a good movie.
Well, it's Wakanda, man. One. Like there's nothing to say. Like. Everything good emanates from Africa.
Billy says he's from the Congo, but he's actually Wakandan. We just kept that. That's his super his superhero origin story right
The
there.
Congo is Wakanda, just so you know.
Oh, there you go. Awesome. And next week is Deadpool. I saw it yesterday, just so you know, no spoilers or anything.
Yeah.
It's everything from the first one, just bump it up with more money and more blowing up stuff and whatever. So it's a fun ride. I'll give you that one.
We'll do.
It's fun.
We'll check it out.
I laughed hard. So anyway, thank you for taking the time. Though I know you got to get going. Any other time you have time, you're more than welcome to come back and chat, and we'll do this again.
We'll do.
Awesome, Billy. Thank you. Take care, dude.
We'll do. Bye.
Bye now.
That was my good friend and colleague, Billy Ekofo from Century 21 Redwood in the United States. He is the Director of Industry Engagement there at Century 21. You can find him all over Facebook. He does contribute to Inman every so often. He was working with Inman for a little while, and he gave a fantastic speech there, so I'll try to put the link down below, all about MOYO. So I'll let you sort of search that, MOYO. Look that up online. Look up Billy Ekofo and MOYO. Check out his speech. It is heartwarming, to say the least. It's very moving. It's just a very powerful moment on stage at Inman there. So I do appreciate you all jumping in. I'm just trying to look at this. I told him I went to manage your own buying. There's a whole bunch of questions down here. I'm going to leave the questions here for Billy to kind of follow up on. Some of them are long. I can't read them all online, unfortunately, but I do appreciate you all tuning in. If you have any further questions, please feel free to put them below. I'm sure myself and Billy will go through and try to get answers for you if we can. And that's about it. So I am Tony, the Geeky Agent from here in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. I do appreciate you all tuning in this very casual talk this afternoon on this Friday. It is lovely. It is sunny, so I'm going to head outside and get some fresh air. And I hope you all do too, and have a great weekend. I will be out showing homes and doing all that sort of stuff and having fun with my kids, because that's what I like to do. So thank you again for tuning in. I love y'all. Look up the Geeky Agent online wherever you go, and I'll see you soon, and I will talk to you soon. Have a great day. Bye now.